Hello, friends. How goes it? It is StatATL. Happy holidays to everyone. No Christmas Santa hat this stream, but hope everyone had a great holiday season coming up on New Year's Eve in just 24 hours or so. So hope the time of the year is treating everyone well, enjoying time with family. Today we are going to talk some playoff best ball. Something near and dear to my heart, a personal favorite of mine, even though for those of you who follow some of my other content around the industry, generally it's mostly DFS focused. Big fan of the playoff best ball contests, both our friends over at Drafters and Underdog and DraftKings all do great jobs with, giving us different levels of contests, whether they be at the micro or mini stakes, all the way up to some high dollar contests. So lots of options if you're looking at getting into that space. So I kind of figured, I know I did one of these streams last week. Going to try to do this Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then again maybe next Tuesday and Thursday before playoffs. We'll kind of talk through playoff best ball strategy. We'll do some live drafts. We'll answer questions and just kind of talk through some thoughts along the way. Hoping to get some more distinguished guests, we will call them, in the next 2 or 3 streams. I think you guys would like hearing another voice other than just mine. So I've got some good folks lined up. Will be a little bit of a surprise, but more on that to come in the next few days. So let's kind of hop in and just kind of answer some questions. And I kind of figured high level. As someone who is in account management and sales and, sells software for a living, I do these type of little PowerPoints for a living. And so I kind of figured this may be a little bit easier than me just kind of high level talking through playoff best ball for those of you who have never participated in playoff best ball. So just kind of high level. We'll try not to make this be Death Play PowerPoint. I've got a couple of slides just kind of talking through. We'll do some drafts. We'll answer some questions. And I guess just kind of high level, we'll just kind of start with what is playoff best ball, and just some high level overview of the different contests. So specific to Underdogs, Gauntlet, and Mitten actually filled today. So this is now for the Mitten 2. The format is exactly the same between the Mitten and the Mitten 2, same with their advance rates. Sometimes, I believe last year when Underdog released the Mitten 3, the advance rate was actually a little bit different. They kind of changed that. So that's kind of one of those things to keep an eye on as you're doing your drafting this year. So on Underdog, it's a 6-player snake draft. It's 10 rounds in that best ball format. On Underdog, you've got 10 total players that you're drafting. So 10 rounds with a starting lineup of 5 players. So a quarterback, 2 wide receiver, tight ends kind of grouped together, a running back, and a flex. Flex obviously cannot be a quarterback. And so one of the things to kind of keep in mind is the advancement rates are different by each contest. So with the Gauntlet, you're in pods or groups of 6 in the first round, the second round, the third round, with only, or actually the third round is a pod of 5, and only the top team in those pods advance. And the finals which would be round 4, are 500 teams advancing to the Super Bowl, $500,000 up top. Mitten, slightly easier advancement in round 1, where 2 of 6 advance. Then much more difficult in the second and the third round, where it's 1 of 10 and 1 of 10. Very difficult to get to the final in the Mitten as well. Mitten is a slightly smaller, or Mitten 2, slightly smaller Super Bowl with just 375 teams. Before we take a couple of questions, get on to a little bit more, let's say hi to some folks. Michael B., thank you for joining us. Go Collect. Always great to see you. Yeah, Shinnecock had the pleasure of getting out there. Beautiful track on Long Island. Disco, thank you for stopping by. Always great to see you. Philly, Dr. Phantom, thank you for stopping by. Let's hit one question before we hop in. How am I handling the Diggs news and also the Corum injury within those respective stacks? To me, I'm hoping that Diggs falls. I don't see a situation where, unless there's some video evidence that comes out, I don't see a situation where the NFL steps in and takes any type of action before the legal process kind of plays out. So to me, I'm not, Diggs is kind of a critical piece for me if I'm drafting New England stacks. One of the things we've kind of talked about, on previous shows and in different Discords is these contests are so large that even when you make the final, let's just even look at the gauntlet. If you make the final of the gauntlet, you're still competing with 500 teams. And the goal, because of how top heavy all of these contests are, and DraftKings even more so than Underdog, I think that you have to be building for first place. All of the money is up top. So I think that you really want to try to avoid drafting teams that are inferior versions of, much stronger teams that will be out there. So, like, if you're saying, hey, I want to build around New England or I want to build around the Broncos, like, I don't know that I would make a Broncos stack without Courtland Sutton. He's like clearly the alpha wide receiver, somebody who typically goes a lot on Underdog in the 4th or 5th round. Kind of the same with Stephon Diggs, kind of the alpha, target there for New England. Again, a guy going in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, so accessible to any draft position. I don't want to be drafting these guys. I don't want to have to be drafting these guys or teams that don't have these players, because if it's a New England Super Bowl or if it's a Broncos Super Bowl, you want to have these teams. You want to have these players. You're going to be going up against builds that have, May, Henderson, Diggs, Henry. Like, you don't want to be coming into that Super Bowl without Diggs. I think you can get away without Henderson just because of what Ramondre Stevenson offers. If we're talking about other teams like that, I think on the Rams, I think Blake Corum offers similar upside to Kyren Williams. So I feel like those are some players where you don't necessarily have to have all of the key pieces. I don't know that you'll necessarily have to have Puka and Devontae Adams teams because of how rare those are to get. Go Collect says I was able to get Diggs in the 9th round this morning. Yeah, people really overreact to news. I'm hoping that I get into some drafts like that where Diggs falls. I'm hoping to see drafts where people overreact to the Rams losing to the Falcons last night, and maybe they start to fall. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening much. But maybe we'll get lucky. So we'll continue just kind of high level, and then we'll hop into some drafts if you guys have any other questions. So just kind of high level, because I am going to do some. I intend on trying to do a DraftKings builder 2 tonight. Biggest difference with DraftKings versus Underdog is really on DraftKings you're taking 12 total players versus 10. So 12 rounds versus 10. It is a 6-player starting lineup. So again, you are trying to draft, your end goal is to ensure that you can field the Super Bowl with at least 6 players that are made up, having to fit the structure of 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 flex. And the biggest difference on DraftKings is it requires a tight end. So we're looking at the gauntlet. We're looking at the Millie Maker. It's super top heavy. It's hard to advance, and all of the money is up top. So I've got some, I think 1 or 2 slides later is just some bullet points on things that I feel like you really need to lean into. One of those things is truly building for first place. And we'll talk about that as we go through and do some of these drafts. Like, what does that really mean? And this is coming from someone who's been fortunate enough to win some of these large field 100,000 person contests in the playoff best ball format. So I've gone through the gauntlet. I've seen what it takes to win. And so we're going to kind of talk through what those type of builds mean and look like. So just kind of high level overall thoughts. We talked about, payout structure being really, really top heavy. And I feel like one of the things that I always like to start when I tell people about playoff best ball is you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable while you're drafting. Like, safety in drafting, which is what a lot of people like to do, is truly death. You are not going to win this contest with a great feeling roster where you feel like you got all the best guys on all the different teams. Like, you really need to concentrate your bets. So in order to win, like, you're going to have at least 5 players, and this is on Underdog, you're going to have at least 5 players to reach the Super Bowl. So if it's 2 1 seeds, which right now is Seattle and Denver, you may be able to get away with 4 players in the Super Bowl. However, if it's 2 seeds or a 2 and a 3 seed, you're going to have 6, 7, 8 players live in the Super Bowl for a realistic chance, of shipping or chopping it a small number of ways. So, I think 10,000 foot view, just high level, it's critical that you try to set yourself up to build around multiple teams, at least one from each conference. It's ridiculous that I feel like I have to say that, but if any of you have been in the best ball streets, you have probably been in rooms where people take 9 or 10, in an Underdog in a 10-round draft, take 9 or 10 NFC players and don't have a single AFC player on their roster. It happens. I think that's part of the biggest edge in these contests is that there are so many dead rosters. And then you just kind of want to keep in your head, the story that you're trying to tell with each build. So, yeah, again, high level, we'll talk through just some bullet points here before we hop in. I think as it relates to quarterback, because I got 2 questions about this in Discord, one via DM, one in our Discord about quarterback. I think there's really only 2 viable approaches when it relates to quarterback. You got your single QB approach. This is you're picking a quarterback from a non-bye team. I wouldn't do this right now with Sam Darnold. I don't know that I would do this with Brock Purdy. I wouldn't do this right now with Bo Nix. You need a team that's not going to be on a bye, and you're stacking the quarterback with at least 3 players from that team in general. And that is a single QB approach. Double QB approach, I think, less risky. Not all your eggs in one basket, kind of gives you multiple Super Bowl options. Obviously, both QBs can't be on bye week teams. And I think ideally, you're probably, I'm not one who is super tied to structure where it's like, hey, I really want to end with a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. In terms of construction, I generally, and specifically on DraftKings, like, I'm not always looking of, hey, I want to make sure I get that 3rd running back or a 5th or 6th wide receiver. A lot of times for me, I'm looking at teams like, hey, I want to make sure I get a 4th bear. I want to make sure I've got at least 2 or 3 whoever, Patriots on this build. And so maybe in my later rounds, I'm not as worried if I'm taking a wide receiver or a running back. I'm more looking up at what am I doing in terms of teams. But kind of circling back to quarterback, I think someone asked me specifically around 3 quarterback builds, kind of thinking later rounds, like they just feel more comfortable. To me, it's not a build I think you should consider. It really just limits your upside to the other positions. Quarterback scoring is the flattest of any. So taking a 3rd quarterback really just kind of limits your upside on what you can do with your 10-player team. I don't want to be using 30% of my 10 slots on quarterback. So we'll kind of hit into some of these. We're kind of talking through what I think you should be doing in your first, second, third round, just kind of high level. I think one point that we won't talk, we'll talk through now, in not just on a draft, is just remaining nimble. Your fellow drafters in the room are going to do things that feel suboptimal. And so just being able to, think on your feet and pivot, I think, is key. One of the things I think not enough people do is pay attention to what the other teams are drafting. And then just kind of final slide is just kind of around the draft strategy difference with DraftKings. Again, just leaning into that tight end position, how it is different. And to me, a lot of my importance on tight end is actually going to hinge on the Saturday night game between Seattle and San Francisco. Why am I thinking on that is 7 of the top 8 tight ends in terms of like the regular season scoring are going to miss the postseason. So if George Kittle and the 49ers win and they get the bye, we are essentially only left with Dallas Goedert and Dalton Kincaid, who can really put up like a separator type score at tight end in round 1. Obviously Hunter Henry is strong, Dalton Schultz to a lesser extent, next strongest options. But I think in general, if we see San Francisco get the bye, I think my prioritization around tight end probably is lessened. Just because I think that there's a strong likelihood that you get a lot of medium scores and no kind of had to have it type scores at the tight end position. And so I think just in general, you really want to draft 2 tight ends from different teams. Ideally, if you're going to draft 2, maybe they come from the same conference, or they're tied to the 2 quarterbacks that you draft. If you're adhering to that 2 quarterback strategy, so that if you get one of your builds to the Super Bowl, you're ensuring that you have a viable tight end to help fill out those 6 required position spots. So enough of the death by PowerPoint. Let's kind of hop let's hop back to me for just a second. See what else we've got, folks. Mike joining us here says, "What's up, Stat Mike? Thank you for tuning in." Philly, our friend here, says, "Being nimble is key." No doubt, being nimble is the name of the game. And one of those things that I feel like really gets underappreciated. And then Go Collect. Others around me have definitely done some suboptimal things before, even more so on DraftKings, my friend. Like DraftKings, those lobbies are truly the Wild West. Like people do things that I think are just madness all the time. So let's hop in. Let me see. I got to set up screen shares. Will take 10 seconds. Bear with me. All right. I think that we are now. Yep. Here we are. We're going to start on Underdog. Going to give me a second, apparently, to load. And I'm going to hop into this new Mitten 2. As you see, I've already done 3. I actually drafted a pretty incredible Bills team on my very first draft in the Mitten 2. Started out Josh Allen, James Cook, was able to get Khalil Shakir, was able to get Dalton Kincaid, filled it out with Pearsall and Juwan Jennings, added I think 3 Bears. One of the stronger Bills teams that I've been able to put together. So, all right, let's hop into a draft here, and I will kind of set up this window to be kind of allow kind of the max fill. Although I think I've got to do something a little different. Bear with me. Nope. that should be better. Oh, Philly, you're in. All right, let's do this. All right, give it a second. Hide. Okay, so I think you guys, how is that in the comments? That better? Good to kind of see the room and the board. I've got the 3-hole here. We've got Philly, who is in here, nothing but 10, Super Shorty, Drew Sunny, Cacao Slim here in the 1-hole. We're 10 seconds from drafting. Go Collect says, looks good, cool. I'll try to make this good for end user experience as well. Mike says, Josh Allen and Cook are easier to get now. Also, the 1-hole has been getting Puka, Adams, and Stafford. Yeah, I've seen that. I would say that is still the exception, not the rule, but more viable than it's been the last couple of weeks. I think one of the things to think through, or at least just kind of call out here, is in some of these contests, not the Mitten 2, where we're drafting today, which just opened a few hours ago, but in a contest like the DK Millie, in a contest like, and I'm on the clock, so let me just go here. Let's go with the JSN team. Not a start I typically go with, to be candid. But, one of the things that we'll talk about is I like kind of tracking and keeping, naming the teams. And so, one of the things I like to try to do is spread out my exposures. But kind of circling back to that last thought, I think one of the things you have to keep in mind with contests like the Gauntlet that have been open for a month, there are going to be some teams that have built really strong teams that are just not possible anymore. Like, I have plenty of teams that I was able to get, like Travis Etienne in the 8th or 9th round and Nico Collins in the 9th or 10th round. These are guys that are typically now going in the 2nd and 3rd round. Like, you just have to be conscious of that, of saying, okay, how am I going to be able to differentiate from those type of teams in contests like the Gauntlet? So I'm a big advocate of some of those contests, of drafting some of those early. I don't have a ton in the Gauntlet just yet, but I mean, you just see Travis Etienne went 7th in this draft. And he's a guy I know that I've taken in the 9th or 10th round before in Gauntlet builds, or in the Minton 1, which closed today. So Philly says, I haven't gotten any of Allen plus Cook. I did get a Hendo at 25 today with May, and then M. Yeah, I mean, I think today we're kind of getting some overreaction on the clock here. What do we want to do with JSN? I think this is a Drake May build here. Again, being conscious of the fact that as of now, Seattle has the bye. So I don't want to draft. I likely am not going to take 4 or 5 Seattle pieces. One, they're just not a high scoring offense. And 2, I'm going to potentially be playing without them in round 1. So let's kind of take a look at what the teams have done. And this is something I generally like to kind of keep an eye on as the draft, unfolds. I think really something that goes under, I think one of the things that goes underappreciated is people don't pay attention to what other teams are doing. And I think that that's a huge detriment. So, we were just alluding to it here. Like, the 1-hole is going to start out Nakua, Adams, Stafford, or I mean, at least he or she should. There's absolutely no reason not to. That's a beautiful start. So assuming that's what he does, that's kind of a spot where I would expect his next two spots here, for just speaking of just the 1-hole, at this 24-25, 4-5 turn, I would expect him, and I don't know if this person's listening, to take a running back, or to take an AFC piece here. So 2-hole Philly goes CMC, Kittle, Nico Collins. To me, this is Stephon Diggs. Why is this Stephon Diggs for me in this spot versus Travion Henderson? And it's something that we just kind of alluded to earlier when I was chatting through. Like, this team is not as strong. A May stack is not as strong without Diggs. He's so far and away their wide receiver one, whereas Travion Henderson splits time with Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm just as happy to take Ramondre Stevenson. You know, maybe that's here at the 6-7 turn. Obviously, it's draft dependent. And, you know, someone who's listening to this could take Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th, and I might not get him. But to me, that's kind of my thought process about building these teams, is what is a Super Bowl with Seattle and New England? To me, I don't necessarily feel like I have to have Kenneth Walker on this team. Like, Zach Charbonnet offers similar upside for a guy that I could get in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. So to me, it's just, obviously I'm not punting on those type of guys every time I do a draft, but it's just kind of something that I like to kind of think through. So let's kind of look through the board here. 6 hole has gone Cook, Hurts, Devontae Smith with Travis Etienne. Kind of an interesting build there. I'm actually going to grab Omarion Hampton here, which is completely out of left field. I want to make sure that I've got a solid round 1 running back. And you see CMC, Barkley, Cook, Etienne, Kyron, you know, Travion Henderson, Harvey will likely on bye, Jacobs, all these running backs have gone. Kenneth Walker would be helpful for this team, but again, likely to have a bye. So I wanted to make sure it's either kind of Swift at that point after. I think here, this is a spot where, to me, I'm happy to lean into more just strictly Patriots. This is probably Hunter Henry for me. Kind of surprised to see Courtland Sutton still on the board. Will likely be a gift here for the 5 hole to be able to. I think that's a mistake. But we'll see. Because if he doesn't, why I think that's a mistake. I understand that Goddard looks better on this team. Why I think that's a mistake is because if this 6 hole were to take Knicks for some reason, the 5 hole is basically dead. Like, can't really build a Super Bowl team unless he goes and stacks, the Bears from a team that only has 2, that's already got 3 pieces in the NFC. So I'm glad that it worked out for him. I know it's a little bit of a gamble. To me, like, that's one of these pieces where your roster is really poor if you don't get that piece. So to me, like, this is, again, a spot where I don't want to take a risk with both of these teams only having 1 running back. I'm not going to try to push Ramondre Stevenson here. I'll just pull him up. Gives me the May, Diggs, Henry, Ramondre stack from New England. Happy to kind of focus on some Seattle pieces. To me, Kenneth Walker's not a guy I feel like I have to have because, again, I'm happy to have Charbonnet. However, if he's available in 2 picks, I'm going to take Kenneth Walker. But he's not a guy I feel like I needed to prioritize on this build. Philly says I'm going to get screwed so bad if San Francisco gets the bye. Yeah, I mean, I've got teams that are built that way, as well. So I think certainly, one of the things that I feel like I was doing a lot in the Mitten 1 that I didn't see very often whereas people building teams around San Francisco, around Denver, or even around New England at the time, who are not in the bye, and saying, what if they get the bye, and stopping at 3 pieces for them, or you know what I mean, building 5-person Super Bowls with just those teams. I think one of the things to kind of keep in mind in this contest is, with it just opening today, the Mitten 2, there will be a lot of teams that are built in this contest that have all the information, that come next week, have all the info on the seedings, on who's got the bye, and can draft theoretically optimally knowing that information. All right, so to me here, probably want to add one more Seattle piece. Maybe not. Maybe later. I may grab. I think I'm actually going to lean into. I think I'm going to lean into Chicago here and give myself another out for a Super Bowl to go along with New England. I've got my 4 pieces here with May, Diggs, Henry, Stevenson. I don't know that I'm going to add another. And then I may just go 3 Seattle pieces and 2 Chicago pieces. Again, I grabbed Almarian Hampton as strictly as an advance piece. I could add another Charger there as well. But again, it's probably not something I'm going to do. So this is Bears. So this is either Burden, Adunze, or Monangai here. I think I want to add another pass catching option. So, okay, I'm good on that. Thanks. So I'm going to add, I've got a lot of Adunze, or a good amount of Adunze. And then I think final piece here is either grabbing another Bear, which is probably less likely for me, but again, kind of keeping options open, or another Seattle piece in Rashid Shaheed, maybe AJ Barner, is that option. You know, I feel pretty confident that the Bears, I think that's one of Thank you, Mike. I will switch it up so that I think the top guy for my queue is probably Shaheed on this build. But we'll be okay if I end up taking AJ Barner or a Chicago piece, if that's how it ends up falling. I think that's okay. I think I feel comfortable with just Drake May as my only quarterback here. I think it's very likely that the Broncos get the 1 seed. The Chargers have already come out and said that they're going to rest starters. Justin Herbert's not playing. So this would leave me by here. 1. Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to go Shaheed. Still gives me 7 active players round 1. So let's kind of look. So we ended here with what is essentially a 1-3-6 build. It's got 4 Patriots. So basically playing for either a Patriot, a Patriot Seattle or Patriot Chicago Super Bowl. Obviously, Patriots Seattle is the main bet. So while I could have gone another Chicago piece here, taking Hampton as kind of this one-off is, doesn't allow me to go a clean kind of 4-3-3 structure. Again, not as important. As we talked about, all of the money is up top in these tournaments. So on this roster, I am building around a New England Seattle Super Bowl. And that is my best shot for on this build. If it ends up being New England, Chicago, there will be stronger builds that are New England, Chicago. So that would, again, would be happy to have a live roster in the finals. It's hard to get rosters in the finals. I've been fortunate in the 3 years that I've done playoff best ball to have rosters in the finals every single year. Knock on wood, let's hope that continues this year. A lot of that just has to do with construction. And I feel like I've been fortunate to been able to, capture my EV on these because of so many bad drafts that I feel like people are in. So before we hop in, again, we looked at mine. Let's look at Philly Phantom. I know that he's in the room here. If anyone else is in the room, feel free to throw in your comment and I will certainly kind of talk through what that team looks like. Will allow me to just kind of do this. Yeah. So Philly goes with a 2-2-6. It's got Purdy and Stroud, CMC, Woody Marks, Kittle, Nico, Juwan Jennings, Ladd McConkey, Ricky Pearsall, and Keenan Allen. So, I don't mind that. It looks like, what is this, a 5-3-2 build? And just kind of added McConkey and Allen to give him another Super Bowl between. Obviously, the main bet here is San Francisco and Houston. With CMC, assuming, obviously, if San Francisco gets the bye, this team is dead. But with the uncertainty, I like this build. I think this will be harder to get if Seattle gets the bye. And I like this. I think that if you get this Super Bowl, you have all the key pieces. I candidly, I wouldn't have minded, instead of taking Stroud, taking Schultz, and really leaning into that Super Bowl. For me on Houston builds, and again, these are really player takey, but I feel like that's what some of you guys tune in for. Woody Marks, to me, is not a super high priority on a build when you have Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Marks could do well, could be in the flex spot in that Super Bowl. But the likelihood that he outscores CMC is so unlikely. Kind of similar if you're building like a San Francisco and let's say you build around Denver. Like if you're here in the 3-4 area and you're having to choose between like RJ Harvey and Cortland Sutton, who doesn't usually fall. Like to me on a CMC led build, like Cortland Sutton is much more important than Harvey, in my opinion. Just because you've already got that running back spot filled. And if I'm building a Denver team, like the two players that I feel like I really want to have, if I'm building a San Francisco Denver build, I'm okay with either quarterback, but I want to have CMC and I want to have Cortland Sutton. Like those are the two main players on each team in terms of like expected touchdowns. So, Go Collect says seat 4. I will be happy to kind of give some thoughts on that. Nothing but 10s. I remember talking about this name with you actually in the Discord. Nothing but 10s. He goes, I got to cheat. 1-3-6. This is Buffalo with Josh Allen, Shakir, Kincaid, and Knox. I don't mind that. And you're playing your running backs through the through the NFC. And you go Kyron, Josh Jacobs, Charbonnet. You added Sutton, Romeo Dobbs, Colby Parkinson. So you've got, again, a 5-3-2. I don't mind this. I think the only pick I don't love is Charbonnet here. I think I'd rather see you lean in and take another Packer. Like if it's a Buffalo Seattle Super Bowl, like that doesn't really help you because you don't have JSN. Like to me, I'm not including really any Seattle pieces on rosters that don't have JSN, because if it's a Seattle Super Bowl, he's the engine that runs that offense. And so to me, I understand, like, maybe you're looking for an advancement piece here or to get another running back. But I think that Kyren and Jacobs are strong enough, because if it's not LA or Green Bay in the Super Bowl, like, this team is dead anyway. Like, Charbonnet's not enough. Unless you decided to lean into that a little bit more and said, okay, I'm going to have Jacobs as my advancement piece. And maybe I'll compete with me and take Shaheed, since you were on this side of me, to take Shaheed here instead of Dobbs or Knox. Just kind of my thoughts, because again, the money is all in the final round. So you really have to build for the Super Bowl. But overall, not a bad team there. Go collect. And then Rob says he's in the 6 hole. Let's look at Drew Sonny. There's a better way to do this other than just clicking. Okay, so he goes 3-3-4 with 3 quarterbacks. Sonny, you weren't paying attention earlier. Do not go 3 quarterbacks. But let's take a look at the team. He goes Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, strong group of quarterbacks. Quarterback scoring super flat. Not one where I feel like you really want to ever go 3 quarterbacks, because it really just means that you're thin elsewhere. Let's look at some more of this correlation. So with Jacksonville, you've got Etienne, Lawrence, BTJ, and Parker Washington. I like that. You've kind of got Cook here as just kind of a one-off. I think on this build, if you're going Hurts, Devonta Smith, you're not able to get, obviously you're kind of painted into a corner here, by starting off with two different AFC pieces. I think on this build, I'd rather see you go at this spot. If you wanted to lean into the Eagles, I feel like I'd rather see you go Devonta Smith, Goddard here, and be okay with not getting Hurts, and just building this team through Lawrence. Yeah. And I think here, maybe even instead of Zay Flower, it's tough because the third quarterback's not helping you. Like, I think on a build like this, I'd rather you take like a Johan Dotson here at the end, if you're playing into like a Philly Jacksonville Super Bowl, or even, because if it's Philly Ravens, like, they're gonna, with how easy it is to get Ravens, Rob. There are plenty of teams you see these drafts that start off like Barkley, AJ Brown, Hurts, Devonta Smith, that go like 4 straight, and even get Goddard, get all 5 Eagles. And then it's so easy to get Ravens. Like, there are going to be teams that, if the Super Bowl is the Eagles and the Ravens, like, there are going to be teams that have all 5 Eagles and have Lamar Jackson, have Zay Flowers, have Derrick Henry as well. So I think, to me, that third quarterback really hampered you. I think here, instead of taking ETN, I get it. You're worried about that. Maybe you go Cook, AJ Brown, and see if Hurts comes back to you, depending on what the 5 seed does. Being on the ends in the 1 hole or the 6 hole is difficult. So, I get that for sure. All right, let me circle back to some of these questions, and then we'll do another draft. Have you done any drafts where you reach to get different, like Houston SD? I assume that's like San Diego, now the Los Angeles Chargers, Seattle. I don't know that you have to reach. So, like, one of the teams that I've been talking about for like 2 or 3 weeks in the Discord is the Bears. Like, the Bears are going to be the 2, maybe the 3 seed, and they don't get drafted until who was the first Bear taken? DeAndre Swift at like the 6-7 turn. Like, Bears aren't going until the last like 4 rounds of drafts. They're basically free. So, and they weren't getting even drafted. There are a majority of drafts in the first mitten that didn't take any Bears. The Bears didn't get drafted at all. I'm not saying I think the Bears are a true Super Bowl contender, but you see the Packers, who are a 7 seed. You see Jacobs go and Christian Watson. Typically, both of them go before Swift in every draft. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting a little bit different. I think one of the things that kind of separates you in some of these is kind of getting unique. And we'll do another draft, and I'll kind of talk about where I think that kind of plays in. Phil, yeah, we looked over at your team. Go Collect, we looked at yours. Rob, we looked at yours. Thanks you guys for drafting along. Let me take a shot of this straight vodka here. That's the good shit. And then we'll fire up another room. So let us scroll over. We'll do another mitten, and then maybe we'll move over to DraftKings. So I'm firing up another mitten here, and it filled immediately. So hopefully that means some of you guys got in here if you wanted to. If not, you're gonna just be watching me draft along again, which is fine. I see Chaz Michelson, Fantasy Nav, 3-hole again for me. Jack Metler, M11 Dubner, and Pretty Ricky in this build, or excuse me, in this room. So, I think one of the things that I always like to kind of talk through, and I think as you're doing some of these drafts, I think one of the things that you've got to keep in mind, again, as we've kind of talked about, is with all the money being up top, and if you're really truly playing for first place, what are you doing that's a little bit different than what the field is doing? And that can be a unique combination of players. But to me, in general, like, that's easily accomplished by just taking a guy late that people aren't drafting. On some of these, what am I going to do, Chris? Maybe we go San Francisco team here. We'll take CMC here. Depending on what that looks like, if that's the Rams, maybe that's, you're taking Ferguson or Higbee late instead of Parkinson. If it's Seattle and you're building around Seattle, maybe you're taking Cooper Kupp late in the 10th round, a guy that never gets drafted, but sees the field, or in an AJ Barner type. If you're drafting around Philly here, like, maybe that's a Dotson in the 10th round, like guys that are not getting drafted, that are on the field, that are seeing snaps, that are on the field, that have upside. Okay, so we see Drake May has gone, Josh Allen has gone. We got Christian McCaffrey here. Maybe we build this around Jacksonville. So we'll start off CMC ETN. Yeah, I think a common start that I'm seeing a little bit more often is pulling up James Cook to try to go Cook, Hurts, Devontae Smith, Cook, AJ Brown, Hurts, kind of grab that combo. Let's go George Kittle here. Bayou says, it wouldn't let me redirect my stream to yours. Said I didn't have your permission. How's the stream going, brother? Bayou, thank you for tuning in, man. Always great to connect with you. Appreciate you Appreciate you tuning in. Sleazeball. I think his channel is My Mind is a Weapon. If you don't follow him, he's a great follow over there on YouTube as well as on X. He told me the same thing, Bangle. He said he tried to do a raid over to my channel and it wouldn't let him. Let's go Jacoby Myers here. I feel like people would be inclined to want to go Nico Collins in that spot, and I think you certainly can. I think to me, like I'm happy to kind of stay in my lane and try to build out the teams that I'm trying to draft for. So this may be a build where maybe I load up on San Francisco, and if they end up getting the bye, it's a dead team. And then there are drafts that I do that I stop at 2 or 3 49ers, or maybe I even go 4 49ers, but I'm conscious to not take any Seattle pieces, or any Broncos, to try to make sure that I have live teams that I can field at least 5 or 6 in the first round. It's a really tough needle to try to thread when you're playing really shorthanded. But again, if it ends up being a San Francisco Super Bowl and San Francisco gets the bye, you're going to want to have at least 3 pieces from them. Pearsall going to start going to get quite expensive soon. Yeah, he's kind of free. He goes in the 8th, 9th round a lot. Really should go before Jennings. To me, like one of the biggest things is I can't figure out why Khalil Shakir goes 2 rounds before Dalton Kincaid in every draft. But I'm happy for that market inefficiency, in my opinion. So the question here is, do I take Brian Thomas or do I take Trevor Lawrence? Everybody behind me's got quarterback already. They've all got... I think, to me, this roster is better with Trevor Lawrence on it than I don't have to take a one-off type quarterback on that build. I don't know that I would probably take one more Jacksonville piece and then 2 more of someone else. Good with running back. I'm okay with ETN even if CMC gets the bye. I do think this is BTJ. Just really lean into this stack. And if I'm saying that I'm not getting any scores out of San Francisco, I'm basically going to need ETN, we'll say Myers and Lawrence to give me a strong score. And then these last 2 pieces are going to have to be, if San Francisco gets the buys, I'm going to be counting on them for scores. So I need to think through at this point who can kind of give me those type of scores. And, guys like Derrick Henry, guys like Ladd McConkey, guys like Ricky Pearsall, although I obviously don't want, on this build, I don't want another 49er or another Jacksonville piece. I think this is a great build for Quentin Johnson. And to me, I probably, if it comes back to me and Ladd McConkey is here, while this will seem counterintuitive, I probably don't want Ladd McConkey. Like, I'm really looking for another kind of one-off piece on this build because I've got 4 San Francisco pieces who could be missing week 1 or round 1. So this is probably a build where, maybe I would take a shot on a Zay Flowers. Maybe I would take a shot on a Jaden Reed. Again, I don't want to consider anybody who could have that buy. Maybe this is a Dalton Schultz build, a Colston Loveland build, Romeo Dobbs. Those type of players are how I'm going to probably round this out. Doesn't need another quarterback. I think I'm going to go Dobbs here. Okay, so we lean in here again with another 2-2-6, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 6 pass catchers. Ends up being a 4-4-1-1 build with 4 San Francisco pieces, CMC, Kittle, Jennings, and Purdy to go along with ETN, Jacoby Myers, Trevor Lawrence, and BTJ. And then added QJ and Romeo Dobbs. Drafting any Panthers. If Carolina gets killed, I could see T-Mac doing a Ladd. I was actually a big proponent in the last, let's say, 24 hours in several of the Discords that I'm associated with. Was a big proponent of taking Tet McMillan as a one-off. Panthers, I think, are something like... right now, NFL.com has them at 72% to make the playoffs just because they can get in by winning. They can also get in by losing and Atlanta winning against New Orleans. And that would kind of flip the head-to-head my common opponents between the Panthers and the Buccaneers. So Panthers are really live to win the division. As the 4-5 matchup, they would likely be hosting either the Seahawks, the 49ers, or the Rams. None of which would they be favored in, despite being at home. But yeah, I mean, Ted McMillan is a guy that I think is a really nice potential advancement piece. At this point in a tournament like the Mitten 2, I'd rather just wait a few days. Whereas I feel the real advantage in a contest like the Mitten 1 was that it was going to close before you had all the information. So being in that contest where maybe 1% of teams have Tet McMillan, like if he puts up a really strong score, like there's very few teams that are getting that. So it's a possibility for a good separator potential. So anyone, before I close this draft, anyone else in this that's tuning, listening in live, any of you guys in this room? If not, I can take a quick look at the teams. Let's look at the one hole. Chaz Michael, who started off Nakua, Devontae Stafford. He adds Blake Corum, so really leaned into that LA stack. Able to kind of round it out with Nico Collins, Woody Marks. Man, I really don't love what he did here. O'Marion Hampton for man, I know I was just talking about that. Like, I don't know that I like Ferguson alone on this build. Like, you have to start 2 wide receivers every week, and you're basically banking on one of Puka Nacua and Adams, and then Nico Collins basically every week to give you your 2 wide receiver scores. Like, I feel like I'd much rather have seen in these last 2 picks, like I'd much rather seen 2 more wide. Like, you don't need another quarterback, 2 more wide receivers, maybe another Charger to go with Hampton, and then a Higgins Schultz type to kind of give you multiple options on your Rams kind of Super Bowl. I think that for such a strong start to be able to go Nakua, Adams, Stafford, and grab Nico Collins really kind of didn't land the plane here, really fumbled the bag here, in my opinion. Let's look at the 2-hole. He goes Cook, Hurts, Devonta Smith, Goddard, able to grab Kincaid. I like that. So this is a strong start. Adds Ty Johnson, adds Brandon Cooks, DK Metcalf, Hank Bigsby, Gainwell. Yeah, I really don't like this much either. I think I'd rather, like, if you're gonna build around a third team, which you did with like Metcalf and Gainwell, like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather them be from an offense that could actually give you scores. Like, I don't know, like I think the Ravens are like 60-40 favorites to make the playoffs. When you picked here, if you were gonna lean into that, like, I mean, I'd rather see you go Henry Flowers versus Metcalf Gainwell. But again, that's just it, man. Philly says he'll hop into the next one. Oh, I see the golf balls. Yeah, man, I'm a big golfer. Love golf, love going to golf tournaments, love collecting logo balls from courses and tournaments I've been to. So hopefully we golf Palmetto Dunes. Let me put that up. Hopefully we golf Palmetto Dunes. Maybe another together someday on Hilton Head. Hold. This is gonna be riveting stuff. Let's see up here. Let's see how well this comes through on the camera. Could be really shitty with the lighting. I don't know if you can see that. There's Palmetto Dunes. Hilton Head Island. They're not in any real. Yeah. Here you go. Here's your harbor town. Here's your harbor town. Just glad I have pants on. And then you've got the different more in that area, the sea pines root courses. Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough for golf ball show and tell for now. All right. Let's hop in and do one more draft, and then we'll get out of here. Drafts. All right. We're gonna do one more mitten. So, for those of you who I have drafted with, when you see this comment, that's when you can enter. I would say, let's go. Four of six. 5 of 6, 6 of 6, and she's filled. All right, the Southern Dandy, nothing but 10s. Okay, a couple of you guys. Lundau, Peebow, No Soup in the draft with us here. Again, it really just kind of likes to put me in the 2-3 hole in all of these drafts today. Harbor Town says, very nice. I haven't golfed Harbor Town yet, but I've been to the PGA event. Yeah, it's a fun tournament. Rob says, I'm in the 3. Nice, Rob. Good to have you. Go Collect, I know, is nothing but 10s. Anyone else get into this room? I wouldn't be shocked if this guy, Mike Landu, is the 1 hole. A very uncommon name. He goes Puka. What are we gonna do here? You know what? We're gonna try. We're gonna try a James Cook. We haven't done one of these. Where we pull up James Cook, see what this Londo. Mike says it's Londo. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you being here. Philly says good luck, guys. Philly, I'm sorry if we didn't get you. Oh, you jumped the gun. Sorry, bud. Appreciate you trying, though. Mike Londo says it's a French spelling, but has no French in him. How many drafts do you feel comfortable doing simultaneously? I don't mind doing 2, but I prefer to do 1. I prefer to kind of follow along with the room, see what people are doing, see what they're trying to line up, and I feel like that helps me pay attention and know who I'm likely to be able to push, who might fall, who's unlikely to fall. It's already, honestly, it's kind of distracting just doing the streams and talking through versus paying attention. But I enjoy the interaction with you guys. So 6 hole goes Barkley, Brown. 5 hole JSN, Devontae Adams, Allen Kyron. Southern Dandy is going CMC ETN, just like I started to do last draft. So the question here is, what do I do here? Do I just grab Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith, which is kind of the corner I've backed myself into in this draft? Wow, man, is that interesting? Favorite late stacks after last week. I mean, I really like the Bears. Again, likely to be the 2 seed. They go so late. Yeah, Philly, like, just talking through teams, like, I really don't want Seahawks players without JSN. I really don't want Broncos builds without Sutton in general. I don't want Patriots, like, just going through the teams. Like, I don't want Patriots builds without Diggs. All the Eagles guys that you want go in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Like, I don't really love that. All the 49ers you want go in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Like, I don't, if you can go Juwan Jennings, Pearsall, like, as a late, like, secondary stack, I don't mind that as much. Like, all the Rams that you want go, in the first 3 rounds, 4 rounds. Again, I don't know that I would want to do a Texans build without Nico Collins, who we know goes really early. I think, honestly, I think it's Bear. I don't know that I see the Packers as the 7 seed. I feel like it's going to be a tough road for them, but again, I don't mind them late. So nothing but 10s pairs up Shakir and Kincaid. Kind of makes my build really difficult. I mean, this is either build Cortland Sutton here, or this is build Stephon Diggs. I think I'm taking Diggs here. Lundu, sorry to do that to you. Again, we talked about Diggs being more of a priority than Henderson. Wanted to take Buffalo pieces here, but that opportunity was not afforded to me. So we're going to kind of pivot off Bills because I feel like I don't want to build a Bills Super Bowl if I can't have at least two of Cook, Allen, Shakir, Kincaid. So, man, this is tough. This is either do I grab Cortland Sutton, which is interesting. I think I'm going to take Goddard here. I think that I've got that as my main. I've got that as my quarterback-led stack. I don't think that Goddard comes back to me. He may have. That would have been rolling the dice. I think that if I had passed on Goddard, if Cortland Sutton was still here, I think the 6 hole goes Sutton, Nix. So that was kind of the gamble. If I take Sutton, I don't think there's any chance Goddard gets back to me. I think he takes Goddard. I don't know that I've ever seen Stafford be available in the 6th round. I mean, I think that this is a Hunter Henry pick for me here. I'm apologizing to the 1 hole because I know he's in this draft. Painted into a corner there, my friend. Had to be nimble. Had to pivot off of a Buffalo Philly stack. I had to make this a Philly New England build. Yeah. Go collect, not a big deal. You don't get Williams there. You don't need a second quarterback with Allen. All right, so this. Man, I don't know what to do here. I mean, I think I really have to lean into not being your buddy right now. If I'm building around this being Philly, I got to give myself a second AFC team, and it ain't Buffalo. Where's the other Philly team? Not. So this is Hertz, Devane, Goddard, Johnson, yes. Diggs, Henry, Ramondre. What else we got here? Pats. All right. Guess we're doing one of those. Do I need another run? Man, I don't know that I've seen Josh Jacobs in the 10th round in a while. We're gonna round it out with Dawson Knox. Let Kyle Williams or Keenan Allen fall to Mike. Can't take all of his guys. Go Collect. Thank you for coming in. We're gonna wrap up. The stream here as well. An hour and 15 in. Mike says, "Hate my team." Top of the guy next to me is killing. Sorry, buddy. You could thank these middle guys for taking all the guys I wanted too. Do appreciate everybody tuning in today. Let's just do this. Do appreciate everybody. I'll send you my Venmo. Okay. Thank you, Mike. I'll send you the $5. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll do this again on Thursday, 8:00 Eastern. I will post on my Twitter, my X account, as well as in some of the Discords I'm associated with, and hope you can tune in there. But thanks for your time tonight. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season, and Happy New Year. And until next time.